right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Decision Hour. I am your host, Adam Bird, and I am excited about this interview that we got lined up for you today. Today, we're going to be speaking with Army veteran, founder and CEO of VeteranPCS. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jason Anderson. Jason, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Adam. Great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Listen, I want to dive right into this, man. Tell my listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, all the way from the roots. Grew up in Minnesota, so just
Midwest guy.
Midwestern, guy, kind of south of the Twin Cities. If anybody's listening that's kind of familiar with that area, Lakeville, that's where I grew up.
Nice.
Had dreams of going into the military and kind of thought around a bunch of different stuff of what I wanted to do, and was always interested in aviation. So I had just a passion. I wanted to do something, fun and kind of wild, and found this program at the University of North Dakota through their ROTC, department, and they have a flight school at UND. It's one of the big, providers of commercial airline pilots and whatnot. But they did all the helicopter training in college.
Oh, wow.
And the Army paid for it, which is a big bill,
Right.
to put. So I was like, well, heck, that sounds like a good deal. You basically start flying helicopters in college. You go through like a normal degree.
Yeah.
So I just did a business degree and ROTC, and then you go right into aviation with the Army.
Okay.
And then you go right into, flight school and everything. I was like, this is great. Sign me up. So it was, 17 or 18 years old. I was like, all right, this is what I want to do.
Oh my God.
And, signed up for whatever it was going to be, 12 years or something like that, I think, total with everything. And just had an absolute blast. I mean, college was great. Went into commissioned, went into active duty in 2012. So went straight down to flight school in Alabama.
Yeah.
That was about a year long. Selected the Apache.
I was just going to say, yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I was pumped about that. And then my first assignment was in South Korea.
Oh.
I had never been out of the country or anything like that. So I moved to South Korea, didn't know anybody there, didn't know anything about the language or, so that was a huge, got way out of my comfort zone. But it was awesome. Got a chance to fly, be a platoon leader there. But I wanted to deploy. And at that point it was I guess this would have been like 2013 going into 14. And they were like, the war's ending. All the deployments are going to be over. And I was like, no, that's the whole reason why I signed up. I wanted to fly, and do at least a deployment in combat and experience that, and be part of that. And so then I was asking around, I was trying to figure out, okay, well, what's just the next unit that's deploying, and can you just send me there? And turned out they had some slots at what used to be Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty.
Yeah.
So got assigned there. I basically left Korea, came back to the States, hugged my parents, went to North Carolina, and then showed up, and they were like, hey, you're getting on a plane to Afghanistan next week. So I didn't have any of my household goods.
Great.
Nothing. I was like, all right, sounds good. So yeah, got there and then left again. Did just a 9-month rotation there, which was just a great experience. Plenty of stories and stuff like that from being there. Came back, spent another, year-ish in North Carolina. Moved down to Alabama again for the career course, then out to Colorado Springs or Fort Carson.
Yeah.
Then we did a rotation to Europe. So then I got a chance to fly in Germany, Poland, and Greece for 4 months, which was cool. So that was my command time.
I can only imagine what the scenery was like.
Oh man, it was cool. Our gunnery range was right at the base of Mount Olympus. So we would fly along the coast, up to Mount Olympus. You shoot, rockets and 30 millimeter blown up, old kind of tank molds and stuff like that. And then they have this kind of canyon type of route that we'd just start, that we'd fly through all the way back. And it was awesome. And then you go out and eat feta and, all every time.
I love it. I love it. That sounds like an amazing career. Well, first off, thank you for your service. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
So fast forward now, you're nearing the end of your time in the military, and you're getting ready to transition out. What did you do getting out of the military? Did you know what
Yeah,
you were going to
it's
do getting
funny.
out of the military?
Yeah, I mean, after command and everything, you're kind of at a critical point, where it's either you stay in, you're going to do all the S3 XO
Right.
time and eventually battalion command and all that stuff. And I was kind of wrestling with, because I loved the Army, I loved flying, loved the leadership and the camaraderie, and just had just great leadership and everything. But I kind of felt like my heart was kind of pulling more towards, maybe I just need to get out and kind of do something for myself. I always wanted to do something kind of entrepreneurial, and didn't really know what exactly. But I got out and I just stayed in Colorado Springs. So I just went through the internship program and took a job doing sales for an IT company. And I'm not an IT guy by any means, but it kept me here. I'd moved it was like 9 times in 8 years, with all the kind of back and forth with deployments and rotations and stuff. And that was fine. I was just, single bachelor,
Yeah.
moving all over the place, but wanted to stay here and kind of put in some roots a little bit. And so took this job, and then COVID hit, kept my job, just remote stuff, but it was pretty quiet.
Right.
And I was like, all right, I'm not doing this forever. Um, and then my mom was moving down to be closer. I've got one brother, he's still in active duty. And she was like, well, I want to live, closer to one of you guys. I was like, well, I'm not planning on moving, so you can come down here. So I was going around with her real estate agent, looking at these houses for her.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this looks kind of cool. Like, maybe I just get my real estate license and try that out, and ask some friends. And they were like, yeah, that sounds like it could be a great fit for you. Um, so I got my real estate license and just joined a Remax office originally here.
Yeah.
I was just a solo agent, and so I didn't have like leads or clients or anything like that. But within about a month of getting my license is when this whole idea for veteran PCS came about.
Okay. And that's what I want to ask you about, because in your bio, it says you're the founder and CEO of Veteran PCS. So what did you wake up one morning and you were just like, this is what we're doing, Veteran PCS? Did it all just kind of like just come to you full force, and you were just, you went with it, or was this kind of like, you wait on it for a while? Walk us through that. What was that like? How did this get started?
Yeah, I was so again, as a new agent, as a solo agent, you're responsible for really getting your own clients.
Right.
So I was talking to friends and people that I knew and didn't have any clients, and meanwhile I'm spending at least $500 a month, if not more, just on overhead business expenses and stuff. So I'm losing money,
Right.
drastically.
Right.
And then I hear about that agents do referrals. And the broker that was mentoring me, he was like, well, if you don't have like clients here locally, maybe friends from the military where they're moving to other bases, and you can
Right.
just develop a network. You can connect them with a real estate agent wherever they're moving to. And that agent usually just pays, like, the standard across the country is just a 25%
Right.
referral of the commission. So that kind of sat with, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And then I was like, well, there's got to be, like, where do people even just go to find like, I never heard of anything when I moved. I'm like, oh, hey, if you need, if you want to buy a home or get educated on the VA loan, like, I didn't hear about
Yeah.
anything.
Here's your packet as your PCS, or when you're getting out of the military. Like, nope. Thanks for serving. Best of luck to you. Like, that's all you get.
Yeah. So I was looking around. I was like, well, where do people even go to find one? And there's Facebook groups, and there's some different websites out there that are not exactly catered to the military, or it's more of like anybody can be a part of it in order to, serve those that are moving in the military. But it's kind of open to anybody that pays to be on the website.
Right.
So they don't necessarily have to be military background or anything. And I was like, well, what the heck? Like, why isn't there just a simple website that just features veterans and military spouses?
Right.
Make it free so that it helps to support these businesses, where it's like somebody like me, like, I can't afford to pay thousands of dollars a month to be
I,
part of some website that there's already, all these other people a part of or whatever. Um, so why not make it free? And then if people make money from the website, like if agents get business from it, then they just owe a referral back to us. And then why not just give part of that referral? Like 25% is a pretty good, chunk of money. So I
yeah.
was like, well, why not just basically split it or give part of that back to the moving military clients to help them with their moving costs. We can do it like a donation to charity. So that kind of came together in the course of a week or two, I
Oh,
guess.
wow. Wow.
And then called my buddy Sean, who I knew from here. He had just moved to Hawaii, and I was like, "Hey, this is kind of a business idea I'm like thinking about." And he was like, "I think it's awesome. I want to be a part of it." I was like, "Okay." And then found Stephanie Camfield. I'd kind of put some stuff out on Facebook. I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a business like this. Would this be useful?" And people were like, "Oh, that would be awesome. I know this agent, and I know this agent that's a military spouse or veteran or whatever." And just sort of ran with it. I didn't have any closings, mind you. So I didn't have a closing for 9 months after getting my license. I got my license in October of 2020, then just started building veteran PCS
Yeah.
with virtually no experience in real estate, just full
But it's
transparency.
such an it's such a genius idea. Let me back up a second. Folks, if you're listening to this right now, it means you're already online. Open up another browser and go to VeteranPCS.com. VeteranPCS.com. And if you are in the military, whether you're active duty, guard, reserve, you're a veteran or a spouse, VeteranPCS.com. Open up another browser, save this. You'll thank us later for this. I promise you. This is an amazing website that's on here. I wish stuff like this would have been around when I was in. I think this is what you're doing, Jason, is great. This thing looks amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it really kind of just took off from there. It's grown to, we've got just about 300 agents on there across the country, just pretty much all 50 states. And we've given back about almost $215,000
Jeez,
moving military families in 3 years so far.
that is so cool, and I love this website because you're showing pictures of the big checks and stuff, and when you're
Yeah.
giving back and stuff like that. It looks like you guys do presentations and stuff like this. This is just so cool, and the smiles that you see on these people's faces it's priceless. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. So what's next for veteran PCS?
Man, it's a lot. I mean, it's growing quickly, but there's always that entrepreneur drive of like, man, how do we, because we hear that all the time. We hear, well, this is great. Like, I wish I would have known about this all the different times that I PCS'd, or
Right.
I'm gonna tell some friends, so we're continuously trying to get the word out about veteran PCS and now really scaling that to where more people are finding that when they're either interested in buying a home, or even if they're just in the military, they've never even considered it, starting to bring that awareness of, man, I mean, if I would have known all the ins and outs of the VA loan, I went back and calculated it, if I would have purchased a home in North Carolina, and I really shouldn't have done that, but in North Carolina, when I got there, when I moved out to here in Colorado Springs in 2017, when I got back from my, rotation in Europe, if I would have bought another, I would have had like $300,000 in equity,
Yeah.
across like a few houses. And I was like, man, like more people need to know about this. So, we're working on growing it now. So I've got a team of, it's been 5 of us, and then we're onboarding like another admin rep right now.
Yeah.
We've got another web developer that just has been working with us since like October. He's a Navy veteran. He's been awesome. And then bringing on a social media. She's a military spouse. So the whole team is, a few veterans and then a few military spouses. And we want to grow it to support our community from within. That's the whole vision behind it, is why can't we just support our own community with a simple thing like PCSing, which no one really likes to do. I mean, unless you're going to like a cool place or whatever, but
Right.
the actual process, like even if you're going to Hawaii, it's like, okay, well, if you have dogs, like that's a disaster of like trying to get your pets over there, your vehicle. Like there's always stress, no matter if you're going to the coolest places.
Right.
And, and why can't we just like bring some good into that where, we support veteran military spouses through that. Obviously, the moving military, members, veterans, families, they get supported. But then we hire, veterans and specifically military spouses within Veteran PCS. So our whole admin team are military spouses that are either active or a couple of them are like out now.
Yeah.
They know what it's like. They know what it's like to PCS.
Yeah.
They can call somebody and be like, "Hey, yeah, I did 3 PCS moves. Like I get it. Like, hey, here's some good connections." And they can work, really when they want to, throughout the day. A lot of them, they have kids and stuff like that during nap time or whatever. But I'm like, man, if we could grow this, like, what if we could give $1 million to moving military families in a
You're
year? And we're not
creating
far from that.
now. You're creating an awesome community. I love the fact that you're hiring veterans and spouses that have experienced it, themselves. They're the sounding board, you know, for the people. And PCS, if you ever PCS, it's a kick in the crotch. It can be. It's not fun. And if you're getting ready to buy, if you know you're going to be somewhere for a few years and you're looking at buying a house, you got to go out, you got to find a realtor, then you got to do this, and then you got to do this. Go to VeteranPCS.com. Oh my God. Go VeteranPCS.com. Pick on a state that you're going to be moving to or whatnot. It's got a list of realtors, borrowers, and stuff all right there. It's done for you. Let's be honest. It's done for you. It takes the hard stuff out of there. And it allows you to focus your time on making sure everything's packed and going where it's supposed
Right.
to go.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Jason, I saw something. We got a mutual friend
Yeah.
that linked us up, and there's something coming up at John Hopkins University that you are actually going to be speaking at. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's gonna be a really cool event. And this connection at Johns Hopkins, they have a whole, program for commercial real estate infrastructure and development, but they have a lot of veterans that they're bringing through their program,
Yeah.
and they want to bring more into that program because just the skill set and everything like that is very good for that line of work.
Right.
Like you have all this project management skills. There's a lot of room for growth in that area. So I got, connected, maybe a little over a year ago or something. And we've kind of developed this where it's like, well, we could add some value to the military community within Johns Hopkins by offering some insights into the VA loan, how to use that for just personal investing,
Mm-hmm.
and then discussing, how does this, how can we help benefit people that are in either residential real estate or commercial real estate, talking through some of these market shifts and different kind of the dynamic changes that we've been seeing in the real estate market. How do you really succeed if you have a career in real estate, along with, here's some aspects of if you're looking to make a move in real estate with your own VA loan, purchase a home, acquire a second property, something like that. How do you go about that in a market where interest rates are high? It is harder to purchase a home, and things to know and kind of look out for, and some opportunities when a market is tough like this. There's always opportunities. Just like, you look back, a lot of people look back like, oh man, I wish I would have bought some houses in 2009 when all the prices were down.
Right.
And just wrote it out. We could be in a similar kind of time zone.
All right, so I'm going to ask a question here, and maybe this is something that you cover in your speech, but knowing the uncertainty of what the market is, how can investors capitalize on emerging opportunities while minimizing risk?
Yeah, there's kind of a couple ways to look at it. One of them is just houses are going for a discount.
Right.
It's just kind of the simple truth of it, where we heard a lot of complaints, obviously, when interest rates were super low. I bought a house during that time when interest rates were really low, but it took me, I think, 8 offers or something like that to finally get one. And then even that one was like $27,000 over the list price and had to come out of pocket some cash to like cover that.
Right.
So it was very hard back then for people to get into a house because there's just so many investors and there's so many buyers trying to compete for all these houses. Um, so it was hard back then. It's hard now, but it's just hard in a different way.
Right.
And you can still get a deal. Like if you find a house where it's, man, this seller is really motivated and that price is coming down and down and down, where you can get a discount on the purchase price and get all of your closing costs covered through seller concessions,
Yeah.
you can basically get into a home now for $0, have all your closing costs covered and no down payment with the VA loan. So that's just one simple way. Another really unique way is through like VA loan assumptions. That is one that's can be a little bit trickier, but if you have time and you've got some money, you can still get into one of these or acquire one of these properties at the 2.5% interest rate or 3% interest rate. And if you're looking at holding that for the long term, who knows if we'll ever see interest rates come down into the twos again. And right now that spread is small enough where if you have 30, 40, 50, $60,000 that you're looking to invest, well, you can acquire a property as long as you do it right. You have to, it has to be like a primary occupancy and stuff. But if you find one and you move into that, you live in it for a while or something, well, you have that rate locked in. You're not going to be able to like refinance that off the VA loan. But if it works for you, you've got a property that can cash flow for however long you want it to.
Right.
When it's at, when your payment is whatever, $1,500 a month and the normal mortgage here is like $3,000 now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge opportunity.
I'm seeing that out here in the Pennsylvania area. The issue out here is there's not a lot of houses in stock, to meet the criteria that we're looking for. We're looking for so many acres and so many square footage. So here's a personal question that I have. For somebody that's not in real estate, that has always thought about getting into the investment side of real estate, what's one thing that you would recommend someone that's really wet behind the ears in this to get started?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I think is important is really get educated.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of that is you're finding some people that are in the industry.
Okay.
So there are a lot of, and if people have questions or they're looking to get connected, even if they're not in their state, but just somebody that knows the investment side and knows kind of the ins and outs of that from being a real estate agent, like, well, we can still get you connected on the website. I could go down a list, right? I could go state by state and be like, oh yeah, I've talked to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I can make those kind of personal connections of, yeah, talk to this agent out there and start to get a feel for like, what does it look like for an investor in that area? If you're in Northern Virginia, probably hard to get into a home in Alexandria right now with the interest rates and the prices. That'll be a good long-term investment.
Right.
But perhaps like further south down by like Stafford, or if there's like new development areas that are kind of emerging, perhaps that could be a better area. Maybe there's a little bit longer commute or something. So some of it is just basic knowledge like that. When it comes to, using your own VA loan and trying to make that work where, okay, I can start to, acquire a property now, live in it, but then hold it for the long term. Part of that recipe is also having a really skilled mortgage lender that you can build a relationship with, really understand the ins and outs and how these things work, the different timelines with the VA loan, what you can and cannot do, different types of properties that you could buy, or even doing a new construction, loan on a property. So those two pieces, building a relationship with a mortgage lender and some real estate agents that really understand this, have some experience, is really kind of step number one. That way, if you're looking around or, you say like, hey, this is kind of what I'm, thinking might be a good deal. you can at least have somebody else look at it and say, yeah, that, that either is a good deal or it's not good enough of a deal, or it might take you X amount of years before you're, going to see some cash flow if you rent that out. Um, so I think relationships are big, and then long-term vision for it is huge. A lot of people, I always say, overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can do in 5 years. And real estate is a long-term game. So Airbnbs and some of those things, like you can find those, but if people are like, I want to buy a house and I want to start making a bunch of money on this house right now. I mean, there's ways you can do that, but it's having a long-term goal where
Plan.
it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is going to be paying off for me 10 years from now, 20 years from now in massive quantities. That's what we're seeing now, right? When we look at like our parents or something where it's,
Yeah.
we see all these little memes or, of like boomers that bought their house for 65,000 and now they're selling it for
Yeah.
$650,000 or whatever. Like
Like,
that could be, it could be us
right.
20 years from now
Right.
saying, oh, remember when you could use to buy a house for in the 300,000s? Like you can't find anything for less than 1 million.
But
So who knows what we're going to
how
get?
often do you find people that are that patient now, though? That's the thing. I mean, everybody wants to, excuse me, I think everybody wants to get rich quick or think that they
Right.
can get rich quick and try to do a turnover on it relatively quickly. And if you do it right, you can make money flipping houses on that. But in today's market, I don't think it's, I mean, there's always a risk, but here's
Right.
the thing. The point is, folks, if you got questions on this or you loving what Jason's saying, reach out to him. VeteranPCS.com. Jason, I want to go back to this John Hopkins thing real quick. Is this open? Is this just for the students at John Hopkins? Is this going to be like an open forum? Like if any of the listeners want to attend this or get involved, is that open to them? How does that go?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It'll be in person and online.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
people can stream in from any, wherever they're at. And, we can put the Eventbrite, there's an Eventbrite link for it so people can register, get the updates, have it on their calendar, kind of click and forget until it comes up in June. And there's gonna be some great speakers. So a lot of people, a lot of experienced folks that are talking on the industry. Kim Kiyosaki is one of the speakers. I read
Wow.
Rich Dad Poor Dad
Yeah.
long, long time ago. So one of the exciting speakers that's going to be there. And yeah, open to anybody to be able to plug in, listen in, and hear about just kind of what's going on in the real estate market and make some connections. If you're in the DC area, then you can make some in-person connections, which is hugely valuable. But even plugging in online, great way to get educated and just at least start the ball, get the ball rolling.
I love it.
Open to anybody.
I love it. And folks, we will have the Eventbrite link in the show notes below. Again, VeteranPCS.com. You're already listening to the show. Open up another browser. Go to VeteranPCS.com. I got one more question for you. You're on a show called The Decision Hour. We got to make decisions every day, right? Am I buy a house? Do I not buy a house? Name a time in your life where your feet were on the line and you have to make that decision. What is it? And what's the atmosphere like at the time?
Man, one of the big decisions that I mean, just recently, when I started Veteran PCS, I mean, that was a big one. I paid out of pocket, so it basically drained my savings to build the entire thing. So that was one piece where it's like, okay, now I've got my entire savings built into this thing. I was still working this full-time job during the day,
Yeah.
building this in the evenings, trying to figure out, okay, how do I just go full-time in my business where I can devote all of my time to this? And that took me a year. So of like building it and kind of working while I'm, building this business on the side and also trying to develop my personal kind of real estate business here. And finally got to this point to where it was like, I think I'm going to have enough clients coming up where I can support myself financially and still kind of support, growing Veteran PCS and the investment that this is taking. But I don't know yet. because real estate, it's such a long, sometimes you get somebody that's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be moving like next summer. And it's like, well, okay, that will either, you know, be an income in 6 months or not.
Right.
And that was a decision point where it got to this like kind of boiling point where there's so much going on. And it's this risk of like, okay, I got to leave this security blanket of a paycheck every 2 weeks in order to get out there and really grind and kind of put all my chips on the table and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. And, it kind of boiled up to that point where I was like, okay, I think I need to make this leap, quit my full-time job and trust that I can make this happen on my own, and perhaps not have an income for 3 or 4 months. And then, and then it ended up working out where then that following year, I worked my butt off, but I had 15 closings, or I think it was 16 or something. And it was the right thing, to make that decision. But man, making that leap was difficult. And all kinds of different entrepreneurs, like that's such a common thing of like, how do I have this kind of project that I'm working on, but I need to work on it more. And I don't necessarily have the financial means to do that. And how do you make that jump at the right time? And that was a big, going all in basically.
I love it. I love stories like that, man. And those of you that are listening, if you're sitting on the edge and you're just like, oh, well, I kind of want to do this, I want to do that, but take the leap of faith. Jump. And believe me, I'll tell you this. Well, let me ask you this, Jason, do you remember what day you decided to take the leap?
Man, it was, it would have been around, so I got my real estate license October of 2020, was kind of doing all three of those things for a year. And then I think it was by like September of 2021. So almost a full year where it just like dawned on me. I was running around, I wasn't sleeping, was doing all this stuff and was like, all right, I'm doing it. And then the next day I was just like putting in here's my resignation timeline or whatever. Like, cause it's like, once you make the decision, it's like, all right, I'm running with it.
Yeah. And it's such a good feeling and a scary feeling. I remember my leap of faith was, believe it or not, was April 1st of 2013. And I woke up April 2nd and I was like, oh, what did I do? I was like, I got no job now. I was like, I got to make this work. And it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
That's great.
Jason, I really appreciate you jumping on. Folks, again, VeteranPCS.com. If you're active duty, a veteran, a spouse, go check it out. Follow it. I'm assuming you're on the social platforms as well. Yes?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
VeteranPCS,
follow them.
Find us everywhere.
VeteranPCS. I'm going to have all the social platforms in the show notes as well. But that's all the time that we have today. Jason, thanks a lot, brother. Appreciate you as always. And the stuff that's going on at John Hopkins, we're going to have the Eventbrite link in the show notes as well. VeteranPCS.com. Go check it out. You'll be glad that you did. Also, go check out our parent company, Heroes Media Group. Go check out all the shows over there, some of the new articles that are coming out. We'd appreciate it. HeroesMediaGroup.com. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.